Welcome to the Nutrigenomic Nation podcast with Brian Highfield, certified nutritionist, author, speaker, and founder of multiple successful companies in the health world. Brian is known for educating healthcare professionals and others on improving their health and their life through breakthroughs in nutrition, technology, and biochemistry. On the podcast, Brian interviews thought leaders in the world of nutrition and natural health. He and his guests share the secrets of a whole life natural approach to health and the life-altering results you can get by making easy changes to your diet and daily routine.
All right, I want to welcome everyone to another episode of Nutrigenomic Nation. So I really appreciate you tuning in today. Today we have a very special guest. We have Dr. Ellie Heintze. She's a naturopathic doctor and licensed acupuncturist and the owner of Starting Point Acupuncture and Wellness. She specializes in chronic pain and migraines, but also sees people with food allergies and also digestive issues. She's also the author of the book, A Starting Point Guide to Going Gluten-Free, as well as the creator of the Food Allergy Formula. So welcome, Dr. Heintze. Thanks for joining our program.
Hi, Brian. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So we want to get to know you a little bit. I mean, what is your background and what drove you to become a naturopathic doctor?
Yeah, I usually tell people in my previous life, I was a chemist. I have a bachelor's in chemistry, and I was on the direction of, going into industry for chemistry. So in my master's, I really was kind of struggling with some digestive health issues. And this was a long time ago, probably 15 years ago now, when, food allergies weren't really well known. And so I really didn't know what was going on. So I did the standard route of going to your primary care, and the primary care refers you to the gastroenterologist. And it was a horrible experience where I was in my early 20s, and they kind of was like, well, all your tests are normal. There's really nothing going wrong with you. But I was in so much pain every day. It was affecting my ability to do my schoolwork, my energy. I couldn't run. I was an avid runner. And I'm like, this is not right. Something is going on. And where I was living at the time, there was one guy in town who was a naturopath and acupuncturist and had no idea what they really did. But I was like, you know what? It doesn't hurt to go in, see what they have to say. And if it's like really woo-woo, I could just leave. But actually it's the complete opposite. It was one of the best experiences I've ever had. And this particular doctor, he spent a whole hour with me and listened to what I had to say. And I was like, wow, a doctor's actually listening to what I had to say. This is like unheard of. But he's like, you know what? I want to see what's going on. Let's do some testing, some different type of testing to see if maybe foods that you're eating are contributing. But while we're having these tests, get the results back, let's get you feeling better with acupuncture. And so he did acupuncture on the first visit. And that also was really astonishing to me that they're providing treatment while we're trying to figure out what's going on. And that form of medicine really changed my life. And so I'm like, he's really helping people. This is what I really want to do. And so, when the test results came back, I actually was allergic to some foods, which I, at that time, really didn't know about food allergies. And it really did pave the way on how I shaped my practice. And so I kind of finished up my master's degree in chemistry, and he was a graduate of Bastyr University. So I applied to Bastyr, and I kind of followed in his footsteps. But I knew throughout the whole program at Bastyr that I wanted to help people with naturopathic medicine and acupuncture, really for digestive health. But since I've been practicing now for about 8 years, it kind of has transformed what I really help people with. But food allergies and digestive health is a passion of mine just because of my experience.
Awesome. Yeah. And we hear that story so many times about those past experiences driving people into this field. And helping others with the same affliction. Now, talk to us a little bit about acupuncture. Just what was that experience like for you the first time going through it, and what others may experience? Because I mean, it sounds kind of exotic to most people. Acupuncture. I mean, it's pretty well known, I think. I mean, most people, but they probably have never experienced it. So, what was your experience like?
Yeah, the first time that I got acupuncture, for one, I didn't know that I was going to have acupuncture at my first visit. And so I think it was a good thing because I didn't have time to think about it. I was like, oh, okay, I guess we'll do it. But it was actually really relaxing. I really didn't feel like any of the needles or the points go in. And I just remember a sense of calmness when I left. And that was also really interesting to me because one of the factors for me at least was I was really stressed out. And so to feel that sense of calmness and like that relaxed feeling was like, wow, this is pretty amazing medicine that you can make you feel this good just after like one treatment. And when I completed the whole course that he recommended, it was like a game changer. I was a completely different person.
So you went from being a patient and getting acupuncture to now being an acupuncturist. And so, well, I mean, what did you learn about that? How can what type of afflictions and how can that treatment help other people?
Yeah, so acupuncture can help with a wide range of different conditions. But I think the number one thing that maybe stops people from coming in is they do the fear of needles. So that's why I call them points, because they're friendly. But it can help get you from that fight or flight sympathetic response, which I think majority of us are in all the time. And it switches you into that parasympathetic state, which is actually the state that we need to go into to go to sleep at night. And so studies have found that's how acupuncture works, is getting you into that, rest, repair, rejuvenation mode so your body can actually heal itself. And so that's something that I convey with my patients, is that's why you may feel really relaxed during the treatment and after the treatment, because your body is now in that repair relaxation mode.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So talk to us about the food allergy formula. What is that?
Yeah, so since going through school and coming out into private practice, I knew that I wanted to help people with food allergies or people who suspect may have food allergies. And I quickly found out when I started my private practice that people needed help just like I needed help. And food allergies, even though it's really well known now, it's still overwhelming for a lot of people. And I know now going gluten-free and having like dairy intolerances are well known, but people still struggle with how to get started. And so number one, like people do come to our practice, may not know they have food allergies, and we test them for it and they have it, and we help them get started. Then there's another group of people who've had tests previously, and they're like, well, I was told that I was allergic to all these different things, and I just was so overwhelmed, I just gave up. So I also help those people make it easy, kind of simplify how to get started, what to shop for, meal planning, how to read food labels, and make it as easy as possible. And so I created this online course because I found out I was telling people the same thing. And I'm like, if I just condense it into this program that it can supplement what we do in the clinic, but it's like Food Allergy 101. That's what the original title was. Like, this is A, go to B, go to C, and how to walk them through what it's like to have food allergies. When we filmed this course, we were allowed to film it in a natural food store. And so I literally walk them around the grocery store and we look at food labels, and we do this getting a whole week's worth of groceries for people who have common allergies. So like dairy-free, gluten-free, and egg-free are what we focus on, but it can actually apply to all different types of allergies, kind of breaking it down and making it easy.
Awesome. Well, so you mentioned gluten-free. I mean, you even wrote a book, a starting point guide to going gluten-free. So in that book, what are some things that may be surprising to most people about that diet?
One of the reasons I wrote the book specifically on going gluten-free was because I do see a lot of people have celiac disease. And there's just a lot of questions around going gluten-free, like, does everybody need to go gluten-free? What's the big deal with gluten? And what's the difference people who have like celiac disease versus just, I have wheat or pizza and I feel horrible, may not have an allergy, but what's the deal with going gluten-free? So I wrote that book to kind of address those questions. And it really is a starting point to understanding, why gluten is so pro-inflammatory and what that can really do to your health. And it can increase inflammation, but it can also cause people a lot of digestive issues as well. And, gluten is this like hidden protein found in wheat. It can be a little bit more than just switching, like the gluten-free switch from, wheat pasta to gluten-free grain pasta. There's another step that some people may not see initially. Is this going to a whole foods based diet is really the ultimate goal when you're going gluten-free. But a lot of the time people just get really overwhelmed with what it actually means, what to look for when they're at the grocery store, or even going out to a restaurant. Is probably the biggest one, is not knowing the questions to ask when you're in front of a waiter or you're at the grocery store and like, can I actually eat this? I don't know.
What are some of those questions, for our listeners, if they're at a restaurant, and what should they be asking?
Yeah, you can definitely ask the basic one, like, do you have a gluten-free menu? Some restaurants do now, which is great. But knowing other key items that may have gluten in it that are hidden is also a big step. So some restaurants nowadays do a really good job of being gluten-free, but there's still like hidden things that maybe the restaurant or the chef just doesn't know about. A big one is like soy sauce. A restaurant or their staff just may not know that soy contains wheat and gluten, and they may say, yep, everything that we have is gluten-free, but yet they put soy sauce in it. And so the follow-up question for people could be, do you have like gluten-free soy sauce or tamari instead? Just asking like clarification questions can go a long way.
What about reading labels? You mentioned that in the store, looking at labels. So those that want a gluten-free diet, what are some gotchas on some of the labels that they may read?
Yeah, luckily now in today's world, label reading has gotten a lot easier, where they do really highlight if there's the common allergens in there. So at the bottom of the label, it says ingredients. Under that will say contains, wheat, eggs, dairy. That's also the first step. So see if gluten or wheat is in that, contains line. And if you don't see that, you're like, okay, this could be safe for me. And then go to read the actual ingredients. And if you see like whole grains or wheat, for some reason, maybe they've missed it in the label. But usually now products will say gluten-free or have a stamp that says gluten-free on it. And so that can really help. Usually it's like with the other allergens like dairy and eggs, that can be a little bit more sneaky.
So yeah, and so there's a lot of things to look for when you're grocery shopping, for sure.
Yeah.
In a lot of those stores, and what is truly gluten-free, and like you said, there's a lot of certifications out there that with the labeling as certifying it gluten-free. You mentioned some gotchas with dairy. I mean, what's something may not be labeled right for those that are looking for a dairy-free diet. Is that right?
Yeah, and dairy is really interesting by itself too. So it all depends where people may have got their food allergy test, or if it's just a sensitivity. Sometimes people say, well, I got tested for a dairy allergy and nothing came back. And then they actually bring in their labs that their primary care ran, and it literally just says dairy. Like, so what did they test? Was it whey? Was it casein? Was it cheese? Like, we have no idea. And so that's where doing a more thorough test that really breaks down different components can help. And so if people just say, dairy in general bothers me, we can definitely run with that information, but knowing more specifically what they are sensitive or allergic to can help. Like if people are allergic to whey protein, that's really good to know, because a lot of the protein powders, like in smoothies and just random things that you would find at the store, sometimes have whey protein in it. And usually that is separated out from the other components of dairy. So knowing that, you can know what kind of protein powder that's right for you to have.
Yeah, and that's important. In fact, I had a friend who had a reaction to a protein powder, and because they used also, I think, a casein protein in there, and I think they were allergic. I forget which one they were allergic to, but one or the
Mm-hmm.
other. And so they had to find a protein that just had the type that they are not allergic to. So, and we were talking a little bit before, and you had said that you come across some great information in your studies, really when it comes to different serious diseases and how the foods contribute to those diseases, and also our genes. For example, cancer or diabetes, things like that. What are some of the interesting things that you found?
Yeah, so one of the main components of my practice is to use food as medicine, and a part of that wellness puzzle is making sure people are eating the right foods for them, and that could be, does somebody have food allergies or intolerances? Well, they should avoid eating those foods. And the next piece is, are there certain foods out there that have known effects on our genes? And there's common foods that I recommend for everybody because of what we know on how they affect our health. And one of my favorite foods that I recommend everybody to have is ginger, because ginger and curcumin can also do very similar things genetically. And that's provide the antioxidant, anti-inflammatory properties, but also some tumor suppressing properties as well. And I was just kind of looking into that because I get a lot of questions about ginger. Um, and in my chemistry work, I was actually doing more cancer research in the P53 gene, which is a tumor suppressing gene. And surprisingly, ginger and curcumin have been found to really enhance that specific gene, which is really interesting. Because that's how maybe one component of how it actually works, compared to a Western diet, which is pro-inflammatory, has been found to turn on the P53 gene. When P53 turns on, can lead to cancer formation.
Wow.
So
Yeah. These spices, I mean, we haven't talked about ginger so much, and we talked about curcumin quite a little bit. And so is it the ginger root, or what type of extract is specifically with the ginger? Do you know?
in the studies I looked at, I'm not particularly sure, but I do know in Chinese medicine, we usually use ginger root in a lot of what we recommend. And so even on a Chinese medicine perspective, I recommend ginger for people because it can help with a lot of different things, from heartburn to nausea to helping with pain. And so knowing like more specifically, like on the Western and the Eastern side of why ginger is so amazing, it's really interesting information to know exactly like how it works.
Right, right.
Yeah.
With that gene expression, with the P53 gene,
Mhm.
and with tumor suppression, that's certainly very interesting. And we talk a lot on this program about how certain foods can express certain genes either upward or downward. Either turn them on or turn
Mhm.
them off, whatever is more beneficial there. So there's another example there with ginger, and that's awesome. One of my last questions for you, Dr. Ellie, is if you have a megaphone and can talk to the world about their health, what is the one most critical piece of advice that you'd give any individual to have the biggest impact on their health?
I would say that now is the time to get help. And I see a lot of people, especially coming out of 2020 in a pandemic, a lot of people stopped going to the doctor because when they're afraid to go out or just afraid to reach out. But now is really the time to put your health first. And a lot of people are coming back into our clinic and really wanting to work on prevention, and just say that now is the time to get things going. And there's definitely a lot of different ways on how we can help, using food as medicine, using different tools in our toolbox like acupuncture to help with pain. But for people just to not get comfortable where they are, and to know that there's hope out there for whatever they're suffering with. And there's a lot of great practitioners out there to help them on that journey.
Yep, there certainly are. And we talk all the time, either be proactive about your health and as you said, keep the hope up. There's someone out there that can certainly help you if you are out there suffering for something. Where can our audience go to learn more about you or maybe connect with you?
Yeah, I'm really active on social media, Instagram, Facebook. I just started doing TikTok videos.
Okay.
Because they're
dance moves, or are you talking nutrition?
No dance moves, but really like short facts, short little tips that people can take away. And also on my website, startingpointacupuncture.com, I write a lot about food, food allergies, and acupuncture, putting in a way that makes it really easy to use and answers a lot of top questions that people have. So my website has a lot of information on there as well.
Awesome. Well, great. Well, this has been extremely valuable information, I think, for our audience. It's awesome. Hopefully everybody got something out of today's session. Today we had Dr. Ellie Heintze, who's a naturopathic doctor and acupuncturist, and also the author of A Starting Point Guide to Going Gluten-Free. So I hope everyone enjoyed our discussion today, and I hope you join us next time when we discuss another topic related to your good health. Thank you so much for listening, and thank you, Dr. Ellie Heintze.
This show has been produced by Market Domination, LLC. To discover how you can have your own show completely done for you and turn it into a real published book and become the authority in your marketplace, go to www.marketdominationllc.com/podcast offer.